You created this animated opening title in a movie earlier in this lesson. Well, it's okay, but we can make it a lot fancier, and that's what I'd like to show you in this idea corner. Now, what I'm already doing is using a null object to move all the title elements as a group from their initial position off into this corner. Since I'm done with that particular movement, I don't have a need to see that null object anymore. I'm going to turn off the video switch for the null. Null objects don't render anyway. They don't give you a render time hit. They'll never appear on the screen. It's just a matter of reducing clutter in our display. Next, I don't like everyone being on at the same time because I'm forcing the viewer to process all this visual information at the same time. To lead them from one item to the next, I might stagger their appearance. For example, I might decide that I do indeed want my station number and my bug to be on from the very beginning of the composition. That's fine. Then I want them to start reading about my program. Since I already have a fade-out keyframed for season finale, I don't want to pick up and move the layer, as that would move the keyframes as well. So in this case, I'll just select it, go to the correct time, hold down Option on Mac or Alt on Windows, press the left square bracket, and trim it to start at 15 frames. Okay, maybe 15 frames or half second after that. I now want my next element to come on, when my show is going to be. So I've got them reading my station, season finale, day that it's on. In this case, I don't have any keyframes yet for tomorrow, so I'll just press the left square bracket without any modifier keys, and now that whole layer will slide back. So here's my stagger. The bug, season finale, name of show, people animated in a position. 0 to RAM preview, and this is what it looks like at speed. Okay, I've given the viewer some important clues about how to read this title, but now let's make things more exciting, have them animate on. I'll stop my playback. Let's say I want my season finale to slide in from the side rather than just popping on. I want it to be all the way on by the time my next element comes on, so I'll hold down the Shift key and my time marker will snap to the start of this layer. Select season finale, type Shift plus P to also reveal its position. Okay, this is my at rest position. I'll enable keyframing here. Now let's pick an initial position for it. Hold down Shift key and drag, snaps into position, and now I'll just scrub season finale's position so it starts off screen. Now it will slam into position, and then my title comes up. But it's a bit boring and a bit sudden, so let's add some sort of text animation to it. In the previous After Effects Apprentice lesson on type and music, you've learned how to create your own type animations, but for the sake of expediency, let's go ahead and use a preset. I'll select tomorrow. I can either browse my presets in Adobe Bridge, or I already know which one I want. I'm going to go down to Animation Presets, Text, Animate In, and I'm going to use this particular animation called Random Shuffle In. There it is. Now before I apply an animation preset, I need to make sure my current time indicator is where I want the animation to start. Because remember, when you apply a preset, the first keyframe goes at your current time. So I'll hold down Shift and snap to the beginning of my layer, make sure the tomorrow layer is selected, and double-click Random Shuffle In to apply that animation preset. With the layer selected, I'll type UU to see what properties have changed, and I'll drag the current time indicator to watch the animation. Got a couple of issues here. One, the text is coming in from the left, which I guess is the same direction as season finale, but looks a little bit messy to be honest. And two, it's taking far too long. Well, it's pretty easy to edit animation presets because, after all, they're just normal keyframes. I'll select the second keyframe, drag it back to 2 seconds, which will align with the other keyframes for my title parent null. Also, I'm going to play around with the position offset for these characters. Move to a point in time where my text is in transition, and then start to scrub the position value to get a position that fits this animation better. Maybe shuffle in from the other side of the screen, maybe start completely off screen. There's my teen tomorrow, and I'll push it just off screen. I can have it come straight on, just like season finale came in straight from the left. Or if I want to tie the title in more to this animation above it, maybe I'll go ahead and raise this position so it seems to be coming maybe just a little bit higher, like that. 0 to RAM preview. Okay, now I've got a nice staggered sequence going on. Slides in, animates in, slides into final position. Works okay, but I wouldn't mind things being a little more elegant, a little more smooth. Notice that everything's defaulting to linear keyframes. And we already used Easy Ease In on the parent's movement. So let's go ahead and try that on the rest of these. I'm going to type Command A on Mac, Control A on Windows to select all my layers, and press U to see just their keyframes. The first view closes everyone up, the second one reveals them. And I'm going to select my second keyframes in my animations. I'm not going to bother selecting opacity because you really don't see that much of a difference when you ease in or ease out of opacity keyframes. Right-click, Keyframe Assistant, Easy Ease In. RAM Preview. A little bit more elegant, but still feels herky-jerky to me. So maybe another approach would be to overlap these animations so they're tied together even more. I'll pause my playback and start playing around with moving some of these keyframes later in time. Right now this frame stops animating and the next one starts animating in 1 second. Maybe I'll press page down 5 times to move forward, 5 frames, and just back off that keyframe 5 frames later. Since I had this other keyframe selected, it moved by the same amount. Now let's try that animation. That overlap's feeling a little better. Things are just a little bit more tied. There's not the start and stop motions as animations. I kind of like that. The final thing that's annoying me is everything's very stroby. The characters kind of go blop, 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 rather than sliding in. So to cure that, we'll use our old friend Motion Blur. I'll stop playback, go to my Motion Blur switch in the timeline panel, turn it on for 9, Planet, Tomorrow, and Season Finale. I can just drag my cursor down. Note that turning on Motion Blur for the parent has no effect because I would only blur the invisible null. You need to turn it on for each layer, even if it's a child. That's another thing that's not inherited by parenting. And finally, I'll turn on my master motion blur for the whole composition. One last RAM preview. I can already see from the preview that things are sliding in much nicer here, not too stroby, and things tie in a bit better. And there's my improved title animation, aided by parenting.